Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson, President of LMA Consulting Group and host of Supply Chain Chats. I'm thrilled to be here today to talk a bit about what's going on in the world, how the U.S. elections may impact things, and what do we do from here. So let's start pre-election. So manufacturers overall were starting to experience a bit of sluggish growth. Customers were pushing out orders, and executives were a bit concerned about the economy and the revenue, although they did have positive indications from customers. From a supply chain point of view, they are definitely a bit concerned about being reliant on the weakest link in their supply chain, since they know that they're only as strong as their weakest link. With conflicts going on throughout the world and weather events occurring everywhere as well. So, for example, there's the Russia-Ukraine war, there's the war in the Middle East, which has resulted in Houthi rebels attacking container ships in the Suez Canal. There is China threatening Taiwan and the Philippines. And then there is weather events. For example, Panama was impacted by the lack of rain, and so it cut off 50% of the capacity through the Panama Canal for almost a year. And recently, there was a hurricane in the east coast of the United States, and it flooded a Baxter facility that supplied IV fluids to hospitals throughout the area and throughout the U.S., and it significantly negatively impacted that supply. So that was what's on their minds. And now that the election has occurred, the election has shown that there is an interest in increasing manufacturing and incentivizing manufacturing. So between the supply chain risk at heightened levels and the incentives for manufacturing, basically what's going to happen here is that companies are looking at a manufacturing renaissance. They're looking at, how do I regionalize my supply chains so that I can be more safe and secure in my supply chains, and I can do it in a way that's profitable, scalable, and successful. Not an easy task. So how does that relate back to the election? If you think about it from a tariffs point of view, it's widely talked about that there's going to be tariffs put on places like China. And so companies are looking at alternate sources outside of China, which is a good thing to do because it does mean that their products will be safer, being more diversified, hopefully to friendly countries, so that they're friend-shoring in addition to near-shoring, so they can reduce the amount of time that the product takes to get to them, which also relates back to the cost of inventory and interest rates that have increased dramatically, which has really increased the cost of bringing product in just from Asia, as an example, because it could be a 3-month lead time, which means you have at least 3 months of product that is sitting there. It's cash that cannot be utilized elsewhere. So when folks are looking at all of that equation, they're thinking, well, as tariffs go into places like China, they can take advantage of potential tax incentives. First of all, negate no tariffs and take advantage of tax incentives by increasing their manufacturing footprint in the United States. So that's going to increase willingness to expand capacity and to reshore manufacturing, to even vertically integrate in some cases. It certainly helps to control their supply chain. They're also interested in the potential for deregulation. So that is definitely of interest because it adds a significant cost and it adds time to the process. And sometimes it's just purely the technologies don't even exist to meet the regulations that are at hand. And so it's definitely music to their ears to hear that regulations will be more common sense and there won't be as many of them that are unnecessary, to being environmentally friendly. So after all, the US, for most of its manufacturing processes, is actually far more environmentally friendly than China is, as an example. Last year, China permitted 1 coal plant per week, which would be considered completely insane and not doable in the United States. So that alone gives you an indication. And we could talk about energy further in a future supply chain chat. In addition to all of this, as we have manufacturing taking off and being incentivized and hubs forming of specialties like medical devices, there's going to be a need for talent. And so companies are thinking about, how do I automate and digitize my manufacturing and supply chain so that I can get rid of low-skilled jobs that actually cause injuries and create unsafe conditions. So they're definitely trying to automate those types of roles. And then they need to be upskilling, developing talent for the high-skilled positions, because there's going to be more high-skilled positions than there are people available. No doubt about it. And so that'll be increasing, especially as manufacturing increases in the US. So we're going to need to be focusing heavily on talent. We also want to be thinking about process upgrades. How do we better utilize the systems and technology so that we can be successful, scale, and be profitable, and need less talent, at least less low-skilled talent, so that we can keep up with our customer needs. And so there's going to be a lot of talk about automation, artificial intelligence, IoT, predictive analytics, digital twins. We could go on and on. And when you consider AI and the powerfulness of AI, it brings energy to the forefront, which leads us back to the need for natural resources, which the good news is that places like the United States do have abundant natural resources. It's just a matter of policy. And so there is forethought that that's going to be a attractive policy so that we can ideally be environmentally friendly, increase our manufacturing capacity, and do it in a way that's profitable and scalable, and leads to increasing our talent pool with high-skilled folks. So the win-win-win trifecta is what we're shooting for. So stay in touch, and we will give you more details over the next couple of supply chain chats.